What is it that makes something real or fake? What is that? Is it opinion? Is it objectively true? Whether or not consciousness determines whether it's true or not? What is real? What is not real? Now, in the past, I've definitely discussed plenty on the discussion on just evidence, reason, logic, things like that, right? So I've explained so much similar to the subject. But what is it that separates what's real and what's fake? You know, I made a video, opinions are not facts. I've talked about the 3 different kinds of evidence. I've talked about a lot of things. But what makes evidence determined to be real or fake? Because you can Google, let's say, milk. Is milk good for you? If you type that in Google, what's Google going to list for you? All the shit that makes milk good for you. You type in Google, why is milk bad for you? Boom, you get a whole list of why it's bad for you. So then you are to determine, is milk, like calf's milk, good for you or not? Well, if you look at both of the research, you would determine that you can't come to a real conclusion because there's conflicting data. Now, I've said also before, I think especially on my 3 versions of evidence video or whatever, 3 types of evidence, I said that research is not a good form of evidence because it's not evidence at all. When you research something, it doesn't mean it's true. Okay? I think you guys get that, right? Milk's good for your bones. Well, I read another article that said milk brittles your bones and actually gives you osteoporosis. And then you hear the other side again. It's like, oh, another article that said that it reduces osteoporosis. And you'll see, is cayenne pepper good for your stomach in terms of ulcers? One study would say, no, it causes ulcers. The next one will say, it's actually good to reduce your ulcers. You know what I'm saying? Research, bullshit. If you do not observe and see with your own eyes, how the fuck are you supposed to believe it? Why do you believe it, rather? Why? Why do you believe something you read on the internet? Or even read in a book? Or like a Christian, right? Or it doesn't matter what religion, but we'll go with Christianity because I was a Christian for many, many years. Christianity, well, it's in the book, right? So it's true. And instead of actually having any type of evidence, they say it's real because it said it in the Bible, right? So a book said something, so it's true. Well, what happens to the other books? You just forget about them? You know what I mean? Like, if I was to read the Quran and then read the Torah, there's some similarities in there, but they're a little contradictory. Their God's names are different. In the Torah, the God's name is Yahweh. In Islam, the God's name is Allah. It's a little different, right? But which one do you say is true? Well, there's no evidence of either. There's none. Just because you read a book and you felt like, oh, I felt the Holy Spirit when I read the book. Shit. Sometimes just by me thinking I catch the Holy Spirit. Does it mean that what I thought is heavenly or divine? No. I caught a feeling. It's like if you're a guy and you like a girl, does that mean that you have to be with that girl? No, you get butterfly feelings from a lot of girls. Not just one and that was it, and that's your soulmate, right? Watch my video on soulmate or my video on what is love, things like that if you want to dive more into that. But what makes you believe what you read? Why? Why do you believe the shit? Because a scientist said it. Or like, for example, when you hear 4 out of 5 dentists recommend this toothpaste. Well, think about it before you say, well, this is a good toothpaste, right? You don't have to do no research. Just think. Use your mind. Because a dentist gets paid for you having bad teeth. If you had good teeth, they would never see you again. Come on. This isn't mind blow shit. This is very simple, obvious shit. All you have to do is spark a light bulb in your mind, put down your smartphone and your Google, and think for yourself. And then you can start thinking, well, they're probably out to get me, right? Because dentists want work. Just like doctors, they don't create cures, they create customers. I'm pretty sure most of you guys know that if you're following me. So, evidence. There's no evidence in the book. There's no evidence in the internet. But there is reason. But that's only one side of things. If you have a good reason for your argument, then that's good. You're a step above not reading Google arguments, right? Arguments you read online. You're better off reading those arguments so you can try to understand where they're coming from, because A, you might learn something even if it is false. And I don't mean learn something like believe it as gospel. I mean, you might get information out of it that might spark your brain. Okay, well, this said that milk brittles my bones. Okay, well, let's actually go out there. Let's see who drinks calves milk and drink it their whole life and now are 67 years old. See how brittle their bones are. Ask them, how's your hip? How's your ankles? How's your knee? Ask them about their bones. If they're brittle, then okay, if you have a decent amount of information, then go to the next person that didn't drink milk their whole life. Then you ask them, it's like, how's your bones doing? Oh, it's not brittle. And then you start realizing, oh, well, okay, this makes more sense. You do the data collecting yourself, and then you have something above reason, which is called evidence. You empirically can prove what you read online. You just have to go out there and find it, right? Like, if you just read something online, I have a roommate, and my roommate is a Google guy, right? Like, everything is Google. Google has all the information. Well, Google's pretty good if, like, you want to know when the band Aerosmith debuted, put out their first album or whatever. You can do those things and it'll have a date and everything, right? And it's pretty good with that. But there's another aspect to Google that's not good. And that is many people on Google, and to mention that it's quite biased. So you're not going to really find things on Google. Like, I remember when Trump was running for president with Hillary Clinton, and there was a campaign called Hillary for Prison because of her crimes. And I would Google Hillary for prison or any, like, Hillary in prison involved. Can't find nothing. Not on the first, 6 pages. You're not going to find nothing on Google. On the biggest campaign thing, or the biggest trend at that time, wasn't on Google. What? Of course, people are talking about it. There's YouTube channels talking about it. It wouldn't even go to a YouTube channel talking about it or nothing, because it wasn't on, the first 5 or 6 pages. And I remember just looking for it. I was like, are you kidding me? This is a huge trend. All my YouTube stuff is saying, hey, we got to get Hillary in prison. For war crimes, right now's the time, and it was a huge thing, right? But you couldn't find it because Google was biased. Google was for Clinton, right? But of course, if you Googled Trump for prison, which wasn't even a thing, at least not that I was aware of, until I Googled Trump for prison, and everything was on there. The first page, everything on the first page was of groups trying to get Trump in prison because of, I don't remember what. I mean, it's been a year and a half, 2 years since I've seen it. It was Yeah, it was like 2 years ago now. Or at least almost 2 years ago. Anyways. So, in evidence, evidence is what you need to prove something, right? Reason only backs up the evidence. But without evidence, you don't have proof. So that's why a lot of flat earthers, people that believe in the flat earth theory, are not convinced because there is no proof of us having a picture of the earth that's round, right? Now, of course, there's a lot of proof of a curvature, but that doesn't necessarily mean much. Now, do I believe in the flat earth? No, but of course, there's a lot of information online, on YouTube, trying to convince you that there is a lack of evidence for a ball, and that the ball actually would be a lot tougher to explain than a flat earth. They would explain why. You know, you can see the Chicago skyline from Grand Rapids or something. I don't know. And when they're trying to prove these things, well, they're using reason, and they try to apply evidence. We have evidence for a flat earth. Where's your evidence for the ball earth? Well, technically, in my eyes, the ball earth theory makes a lot more sense. But the hardest thing I can find for the ball earth theory is evidence. That's the hardest thing, but I still stick with my belief structure on the ball earth because it makes more sense, reason and logically. So through reasoning, I can understand the ball earth theory better. Like it's clearer to me. But the flat earth theory has more evidence. So it's a contradictory thing for me. I see more evidence with the flat earth. And my reason and logic tells me that it can't be flat. And it would go against a lot of our physics. Gravity would be worse at some spots than the other. You know what I'm getting at, right? Like the flat earth, reason-wise, wouldn't make sense. But evidence-wise, like even the ocean, right, isn't flat. It's curved, just like the land. So if it's curved, you can only see so far. But with a microscope or a telescope or something, you can keep zooming out and keep seeing ocean that's farther and farther away that you can't see with the naked eye. So that kind of shows you like, wow, maybe it is flat. Like there's more evidence to support a flat earth theory than a round earth theory. There's more evidence. Unless you think actually that the fake moon landings or whatever, right, are legit. Like the picture that they took from the spacecraft, I mean, it was clearly faked, but I mean, it's obvious. I'm not trying to convince you of this. It's just way too obvious for me that they faked it. And the pictures that they have of Earth, if you look on Google, are not actual one photo. It's not like one big photo. They just took a picture. Because supposedly you can't. It's just too much data, too much information, which is, in my opinion, still bullshit. But yeah, you can't take a picture of Earth. You got to take pictures in sections and render them together. So there's either that, which is Photoshop CGI, or a painting. I see a lot of paintings. If you look at Google images on Earth, a lot of them are paintings. CGI, like I said, photoshopped in sections. But that's not evidence. That's faked, right? That's extremely faked. So you cannot say that's evidence. Anyways, I don't want to stay on this subject of flat Earth. I didn't think I was going to get on it. For those of you guys bitching about my seatbelt, I'm telling you, I wear the seatbelt. It's just very uncomfortable for my neck. I'm starting to get scrapes and shit, and it hurts and it itches. Yeah. I am wearing the seatbelt. It's just under my arm. It's Under Armour. All right, so I said before, evidence would be more empirical. anecdotal, and research. But research is not evidence, right? So if you are looking for evidence of something, all you're doing is having evidence that somebody typed this out or wrote this down. That's all you're doing with research. Is like, let's say some scientist, right, writes down all their studies. Well, when I added this to this, I got this reaction, and put it all down on paper. That's still not evidence. That's his evidence or hers. That's their evidence. That's not your evidence. And if you believe that like a religion, that's on you. Now, could somebody be more trustworthy? Sure. Should you believe in some of it? Sure. And you could. And it wouldn't do you any harm, especially if it makes sense with your reason and logic for yourself. And if you tried some of the experiments, let's say some scientist did some experiments and you're like, what? Would it really have that reaction? Or would that really be the conclusion or outcome or blah, blah, blah? Well, go and try it yourself. If you have something similar, then that person all of a sudden becomes a lot more trustworthy in terms of their data being correct. So, and everyone makes mistakes, you know. Everyone makes mistakes. So, you can't trust somebody else's research as much as your own, because they can manipulate their research. There could be a bias to the research. You don't really know the person, especially like if there's like a scientist or a doctor from like 100 years ago, and they're dead now, and you never met them in life. Well, you don't really know them. All you hear is the stories about them, perhaps. Maybe he was a good scientist. You know, he was trustworthy. He was the best in that time frame. You know, you can hear those things, but that shouldn't be a conclusion to being able to trust them and say that everything verbatim that they've ever written down is 100% correct. That would be ridiculous. That's not evidence. Research would be the least quality in terms of evidence, because it can still obviously be false. Anecdotal evidence is about the middle ground, right? That's you seen something, you experienced something. Anecdotal could be even like if you had an ayahuasca experience or some type of DMT experience or whatever, right? And that's subjective. If somebody else was to do the exact same thing as you, well, and under similar conditions, it doesn't mean they're going to have the same trip as you, right? You understand that? So anecdotal is a step above, by far, of research. But anecdotal experience can be quite that, subjective. And then the best type of evidence would be more along the lines of empirical. So this is something that you can prove over and over and over and over again, right? So you take gasoline, you put a flamethrower to the gasoline, well, the gasoline's going to ignite, blah, 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 right? You can prove this over and over and over again. But there's ways also that can stop it. So if you added, let's say, gasoline with, let's say, dry ice, and then try to light it on fire. Well, it's not going to light on fire because there's dry ice in it now. So let's say, going back to the research thing, they didn't tell you that they put dry ice in it and it just never lit up. Well, you can't just say, well, it doesn't always light up. Sometimes it just doesn't. No, he just didn't tell you that he put dry ice in the gasoline when he did the research, or at least when he wrote down what happened. So research, I wouldn't trust as much. Definitely listen to people's arguments, listen to the reason, but don't believe it as 100% truth without strong evidence. Reason and logic is very important, but not as important as evidence. And research is pretty much like non-existent when it really comes to evidence. And I think that's rather important to talk about in this video, because a lot of people think that, well, Google said, and then they think that's 100% true. What's the death toll from World War II? Yeah, they're counting all those bodies? You really think they gave a fuck to count all them bodies? Yeah. All of them. Yeah. Well, you may be a bit naive. Or stupid. Incapable of your own critical thought. So, and another thing, like, a lot of people talk good. So when they're talking good and they're using, let's say, intelligent big words, gargantuan idioms, and it sounds good, and they have a way with words. Like, for example, some people have really good speechcraft, and they might be charming or whatever, right? And they can catch your attention, and you'll like the person, whether they're using smart words or they're just have a way with words, and they have a different type of energy, and you like this person, right? And they're giving you a good vibe. Like, you ever see like somebody on top of a stage talking to the people, whether that's in a play, whether that's a stand-up comedian, and they capture your attention, and you like that person, right? You're like, wow, this person's charismatic, great attention, holding my attention or whatever, and saying whatever he's saying. I think I can trust this guy. And that's one of the biggest problems, is that people just want to believe somebody that they like. If you're in a debate, or at least watching a debate is what I really meant to say. If you're watching a debate, well, a lot of people tend to drift and believe the person, not that's making more sense, but that the person they like more. Right? So let's say the debate person, or one person that's debating, was just using reason and evidence. Reason, evidence. And the other person was like making fun of him, making jokes. Well, a lot of people are going to go and believe the guy who was making more jokes than the person that was providing more reason and evidence. The reason being is because people are not looking at who wins an argument or a debate by actually winning. They want them to win because they like them. It's like football. You like how a certain team plays. Like, for me, when I was 5 years old, I liked the West Coast offense of the San Francisco 49ers. And all my family, our closest team was the Buffalo Bills. And they were all hardcore Buffalo Bills fans. And I was 5 years old, I said, you know what, and it was 1991 or 1991, I'd say. Where the Bills was a really damn good team. And I didn't like them, but I liked the way the Niners played. And I kept saying, I like them, I like the red and gold, I like the way they play. Well, they didn't win the Super Bowl in 91, 92, 93, 94, but neither did the Bills. But the Bills was a much better team making it to the Super Bowl all 4 of them years. And my dad especially, was like, come on, man, be a Bills fan with us, come on. And I'm 5 years old, very susceptible to, I guess, falling in line with my dad and my whole family, the sports team they liked. But I couldn't do it. It was just too flashy. A team, the red and gold, the hurry-up offense, like, they were so much cooler to me, even though they sucked more. So, I picked a team that sucks today, but I liked because of more of a flash, not because of, they're a better team, right? So, same goes with a debate or an argument. People tend to go for the one who's more flashy, the one with more witty comebacks, right? Rather than the one that's making more logical sense. Right? I hope you're getting this. So, a lot of people do this. And if you're brought up into a family that's a Christian, and you go to church every week, well, you're very susceptible to this idea that the Bible is truth, rather than an opinion that was written down by many people, in my opinion, probably occultic people. And, what was the major saying? Religion is considered to the common folk as truth, to the philosopher as bullshit, and to the rulers as useful. so you can control the people, etc. But how do you say that there's evidence for any of this shit? I mean, any logical philosopher would definitely get into the idea that 600-year-old Noah could not build an ark that can take in two of every animal. Animals eat each other. Animals are not that easy to keep alive. For 40 days, 40 nights, you need food and water for all of these animals. It doesn't make sense. But if you research it and you believe what you research, well, it's in the Bible and Jesus saved us for our sins. Well, what is this shit? There's no evidence. Where's the evidence? That's here. He said, she said shit. So, my mom is a Trump fan. I know, I'm sorry guys. My mom's a Trump fan. She's a Fox News type person. I know. I'm trying to make her use her head, but it's tough. And she thinks that what she hears on the news about Trump and about what's going on in the news is real. She'll say, she'll tell me, well, they're not letting Trump pass the laws to make America great again, blah, blah, blah. I was telling her that one day I want to have a fleet of trucks. I want a fleet of trucks and maybe 3 to 5 trucks and stay home and be the dispatcher and work on the trucks and clean them and do all the things, getting loads from the brokers or load boards, whatever. I wanted to be that guy, but it would take a while and I would need money. And she goes, Trump is trying to help out the middle class. And of course I was like, how? What is he doing? / what has he done? And then it turned into a he said, she said thing. She wouldn't stay on subject, which would be, when I asked, what did he do or what is he doing to help out the middle class where I can start up a business like that. And I can benefit off that business rather than making it more of a risk the way it is now. She goes, well, the taxes are going to be lower. And I'm like, what do you mean the taxes are going to be lower? Did he already do this? No. Is he working on it? Well, they're not letting him. Well, then why do I care that Trump's in there if they're not letting him? If they're not letting him and they're not going to, we can scratch all your bullshit about Trump because nothing's happening. Well, they're not letting him. What do you mean? I thought you guys are dumb enough to believe the president had all this power. They aren't letting him. Oh, so there are people that pull the strings. No, there's Republicans and Democrats. No one likes them. Anyways, she was telling me about that shit about, just brainwashed because of Fox News. They're trying to help the middle class. Okay, how? How? Answer that. Have evidence. No evidence? You have no reasoning other than he's just trying to help out the middle class? Just, he said, she said. Trump said this, and he has to team up with Nancy Pelosi on the other side, and whatever, right? I'm thinking to myself, that's he said, she said thing. That is, actions speak louder than words. Evidence speaks louder than he said, she said. Right? So when you hear Trump's trying to make America great again, don't believe him. Unless he actually does. I can say I'm the best basketball player in the world, and then I end up scoring like a one-on-one game with LeBron James. Like somehow, I was able to do it. Well, you're the best basketball player in the world. We'll give you $1 million right now if you can beat LeBron James in a 20-minute basketball game one-on-one. And then I go there and I don't. And I don't score one shot. LeBron James elbows me around, beats me up a bit, slam dunks it in my face, puts his balls all in my fucking face, right? Well, it didn't matter what I fucking said. It's what happened, right? Am I the best basketball player in the world? No, I got destroyed by the best basketball player in the world, right? So don't think about he said, she said. When it comes to evidence, evidence reigns supreme. So I guess that's the majority of the point. We're at 30 minutes now, so I'm going to keep it at that. Before my phone shuts off, my phone usually shuts off between 31 and 33 minutes, sometimes 34, sometimes 30. So it's going to shut off any second. So I'm going to leave it at that. Stay tuned for more content. I'm going to have daily content every day. That's what daily means. So stay tuned. See ya.